Oh man, I am really sick this morning, but I'm going to push through this video anyway because your boy does not fail with the uploads unless he does sometimes. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about the best mobile game on the planet for the year 2022. If you did not know, there's currently the Game Awards going on. Category number 11 is mobile gaming. Now, there is 5 games that are being contested for this award. We got Apex Legends, Genshin Impact, Tower Fantasy, Marvel Snap, and of course we have our game, Diablo Immortal. So let's talk about in this video whether or not Diablo Immortal is worthy of the game of the year, of the best playable game on a mobile device right there. In order to decide whether or not I will be voting on Diablo Immortal, I have decided to break down my review today for these games into 5 different categories: monetization, gameplay, graphics, the company making it, and the future of the game. Let's start with monetization. Since how the awards work is there's 5 different games to pick from when it comes to monetization, we need to be looking at its competition and deciding if Diablo Immortal has better or worse monetization. We don't have to spend very long on this one because I want to give you an example of which game I think has better monetization. I think Marvel Snap did a fantastic job. If you didn't know, Marvel Snap had a significant amount of monetization issues during the beta prior to launch. People said it was extremely pay to win. So what the actual company did was rework the entire system with a pool system and only made the cards cosmetically upgradable. This changed the entire monetization of the game and ended up being a really, really good move. So in my opinion, Marvel Snap has better monetization. I actually think Genshin Impact's monetization is just as bad as Diablo Immortal. I've actually spent more money on one character in Genshin Impact than I've spent on my entire account for Diablo Immortal. Tower Fantasy probably has better monetization. Apex Legends definitely has better monetization. So if we're going to go by monetization standards, then in this scenario, the monetization would be an L and the other games would be receiving the W for monetization. So the first category, no, we cannot give it the best game of the year because of monetization. Second category is going to be gameplay. Now, I do actually believe gameplay is a position where Diablo Immortal probably could arguably be maybe one of the better games. I do think games like Genshin Impact and Tower Fantasy that have open world tend to be more enjoyable in terms of gameplay. However, we have to consider the genre. When people are playing gacha games, etc., Genshin Impact, Tower Fantasy, which are gacha games, kind of blew up that genre and expanded it to the open world side of things, etc., which really made those games feel new, unique, fresh in terms of gameplay. Diablo Immortal is an ARPG, meaning the gameplay standard of ARPG is run around and kill a bunch of monsters. So in order for ARPG to have good gameplay, the killing of the monsters, in my own personal opinion, again, this review is just personal opinion, gameplay for an ARPG genre must be how smooth it is to kill monsters, pretty much full stop in my opinion. For this aspect, I would say that yes, Diablo Immortal does have the potential of being one of the best games out of these 5, although there is very tough competition because in my opinion, Marvel Snap's gameplay is repetitive and easy to do. I think Genshin Impact has had some of the better gameplay, although recently there was an interview stating that they don't really plan to add more in-game content. So it does have some of the same issues Diablo Immortal does, where you get to the end of the game and then all it is doing the same thing over and over. I'm trying not to address that point so much for Diablo Immortal because I don't think it's too fair of a point. I've had that same complaint in basically every game I played, where once you get to the end game, there's nothing to do. And I think that's because in-game is literally the end of the game for most of these games, and no game has an unlimited expiration date, unless we're talking Minecraft or something. So for that reason, I think it's more of a draw. I don't think I can really say a W or an L. I think I'm willing to say T for a tie. Next on the list is going to be graphics. Now, this is another one that potentially Diablo Immortal actually does pretty good at. If we look at its competitors in the ARPG region, we'll be looking at things like Torchlight Infinite. We'd be looking at Undecember. In my personal opinion, Undecember is arguably, up there in the graphics, but I do think that Diablo Immortal, in my own personal opinion, has the best graphics out of the 3 recent games for this year for ARPG. I do think that graphics are pretty undeniable that Diablo Immortal's graphics are pretty decent. So in my personal opinion, out of all of these, I actually like Diablo Immortal's graphics the best. Marvel Snap's a card game, and while I love Marvel Snap, can't really give graphics that one. Genshin Impact and Tower Fantasy, again, this is me personal, it's my vote. So Tower Fantasy and Genshin Impact for me have identical graphics between the two and are very like anime, cell shaded type of stuff, very Breath of the Wild looking. And actually, I just prefer kind of the darker look of Diablo Immortal. Apex Legends Mobile, I have played that. I actually don't think the graphics are phenomenal in that game, but you're welcome to debate me on that point. For me personally, I think graphics today, I actually will give it the W for graphics, because I think that's one fair one that I could actually say, you know what? I do actually see where Diablo Immortal could be considered the best graphics out of all the games listed. Now we're going to get down to the company that's developing it, the communication of that company, and how they've responded to the public and how they've changed the game since it's been released. In my personal opinion, Marvel Snap wins this category. I do believe them, like I mentioned prior, with the reworking of the monetization and the way they actually listen to the community, I do believe I have the most faith out of all of these companies in Marvel Snap. Personally, while I do believe recently things are getting better, you guys have seen I've had a large amount of videos that have been pretty hyper negative around Diablo Immortal. A lot of those are related around decisions the company has made. For that reason, I don't believe that the history of the game will allow me to give them a W from the company point of view today. So for that reason, I have to give them an L when it comes to the company. Last category for me is going to be the future of the game. This means obviously looking into the future and seeing where we believe they're going with things like a roadmap, updates, etc. This one is a toss-up for me. I think Marvel Snap has a fantastic, easy to launch future because all you have to do is release new pools, new cards. I think Genshin Impact's future is in the dumpster because they stated they're not going to add any more in game. I think Tower Fantasy's future is kind of the same as Genshin Impact. And I think that Diablo Immortal's future, if I look at it objectively, I say, I haven't seen them being willing to add tons and tons of more resonance additions into the game. Yes, we're getting more legendary crest. I'm not seeing too many of those additions. And for me, the future is going to be heavily tied around new in-game content, new ways to actually acquire resonance. Again, this kind of ties back into the monetization reasons, but I do believe that the future of Diablo Immortal is going to be heavily tied around how much they're willing to reduce the pay to win, how much they're willing to let free-to-play players get into the end game as quickly as possible and develop their accounts once they're there. The future of Diablo Immortal, I actually don't think is bad, though, is the thing, because recently the updates have been good. However, the problem with the future is we're not getting a whole lot of communication. The majority of the future that we're getting for Diablo Immortal is coming out of things like the data miner, shout out to data miner, and it's coming out of the community's faith, I feel like, a little bit. Even though we have seen good recent updates, those recent updates, what they're doing is restoring faith to the community. So the community is looking forward, but they're looking forward to the future blindly, whereas I believe this is a staple mistake the company has made. We're not seeing roadmaps. I'm not getting much released information, and for that reason, I don't believe that Diablo Immortal today, as it stands right now, I can firmly give them a W for the future. But I can't give them an L just because the games that we're comparing them against, like Genshin Impact, Apex Legends Mobile, Tower Fantasy, etc. I don't really see any of these mobile games in terms of future development of the game having this skyrocketing crazy future. I will say that I think Marvel Snap absolutely does have that kind of future. So for today, I think at the very most generous, I would be able to give the future of the game is a tie, but it's bordering on an L if I'm being honest with myself. So if I take all of this breakdown, I would say monetization is definitely now in Diablo Immortal. Gameplay is probably a tie, if we're being fair. I do think the graphics are a W. The company is definitely now, and the future is tied with the other mobile games. Again, I'm not saying the future is bright in and of itself in a vacuum. I'm saying compared to the other 4 games here, it's tied borderline an L. So we have maybe 3 L's, or 2 ties, 2 L's, and 1 W. For that reason, today, I cannot give this game my vote for the best game of the year. If it was me personally, I would be giving my vote to Marvel Snap, as I both like the decision the company made to completely rework monetization when they actually listened to the public and they weren't greedy about it. I also think the future is bright for the game. I think the gameplay is quick, easy, repeatable, and doesn't get boring very quickly. I'm actually a really big fan of the game. So for today, for the Game Awards, I will be giving my vote to Marvel Snap. With that being said, if you're interested in Marvel Snap, I actually do have a channel completely dedicated to the game, and I will put a video right here. You can click to find that channel. There will also be a link in the description as well as the pinned comment to find that channel as well. I love you all. Let me know where I'm wrong. Let me know where I'm right, because sometimes, to be honest with you, I only focus on negative comments, and that's a me problem. But seeing where I'm right sometimes actually helps balance out my Mentos with that too. So I love you all. Thanks for everything, and I'll see you on the next video.